What is up? Kevin Hale here. It is Sunday, May 11th, 2025. We're doing another round of shots. Davo, Doc is in the house. Davo, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you? Doing fantastic.
I'm good. Good to see you, bro. Doc, what's up, Doc? So what's up, Doc? That sounds, I should use my Bugs Bunny voice when I say that, right? Can you hear us, Doc? Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
There may be a little bit of problems with my connection because you're using this new platform, Kevin, and I was told that with this new platform, I would neither one of those things is happening.
Well, here's the thing. They're both. So I'm using Restream. It is a new platform, but I was using StreamYard before. But they're both web-based platforms. So if your connection, I mean, yeah, it is. It's a browser-based app. So yeah, you do need to have a decent connection. So. And I'm kind of testing this out. It's going to be very laid back, and I appreciate everyone hanging with us, doing this tonight. So, Doc, hopefully we get you. I mean, you're Mr. GQ. We got the looks. We get the functionality going with you. But
I don't know. I'm here in a white T-shirt tonight, so you may
that's GQ.
not be getting your money's worth. I'll try to make it up on the other end.
All right. For everyone watching who had a role in today's events, happy Mother's Day to each and every one of you. Davo, how was your Mother's Day?
It was good. We went to Kingfish on the River in downtown Louisville. I don't like fish, so I had chicken tenders. It's just kind of what it is, right? Pay for my mama's meal and everything. Kind of enjoyed that after church, and came home, watched some WWE, and now I'm chilling with you guys.
WWE from last night?
Backlash, yeah, I watched the pay-per-view from last night.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the wedding on Saturday.
Gotcha. Doc, how are you? How's the Mother's Day? Was that a thing?
Yeah, it went fine. Always a little bit bittersweet. I lost mom in 2014, so we're going on 11 years without her. But of course, my wife Kanisa, she's a mom, so we get to celebrate that part of it also. You got to take the good with the bad, but always is a little bit bittersweet for me.
I hear you. Buzz, he's in and out. He's in his car. He'll eventually get to a point where he has some good internet. Buzz, are you messing around with us? What are you doing? You trying to steal our thunder? Oh, what he's doing. Anyways, we are streaming on our X and YouTube channels. Again, thanks for hanging with us on this Sunday evening as we wind it down for the weekend. Steal our thunder. So yeah, now it's going to be fun. Topics tonight. What am I talking about tonight? It's been a relatively slow week for Kentucky men's hoops, as we like to try to talk as much as we can. We do have, and I'll rely on Davo, since our last show, which was 2 Sundays ago, we added a one more in the portal, 7-footer, Davo.
Yeah.
What's the story with him, real quick? What's his name? I should know this shit.
Porter.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, came from Miami of Ohio. Yeah.
Reese Potter. Yeah.
Came from Miami of Ohio, was like 7'2". Obviously, he's kind of thin, but he's a freshman. So, skilled shooter. Only played maybe 12 minutes a game, not a whole lot. Obviously the competition in the MAC is not up to par. There he is. There's a legend. I'm definitely just gonna assume that he's gonna. Oh man, now I don't know what day it is on us now. Um, I'm just safely assuming he's a beast and a huge practice player for this year. So on.
Davo, your connectivity is a little shaky there. Doc, what did you think of the Reese Potter portal?
I like it. I'm hoping he's going to be a little bit more than just the pure depth piece. I know, at least in the future, maybe in year 2 or so, I think he can become a major player. The guy can really shoot threes. And with Pope, the way he likes to have his fives, kind of the offense running through the fives, I like the thought of somebody like Potter. I think he's a good piece of the puzzle. One thing that really stood out to me, obviously wants to be here. And we've gone around and around about players playing for the name on the front of the jersey. And Reese looks like somebody who turned down evidently quite a bit of NIL money in order to sign with Kentucky. I'm hoping he's not going to be one of these people who gets significantly better in year 1 and then ends up looking for another school when they throw wheelbarrows of cash at him. I don't think he's that way. I think he's going to be a keeper.
Well, I think it's probably safe to say, Buzz, if you're with us here, someone like Potter, as he develops, if he's a Kentucky kid, if he wants to be here and he's good enough to be here, yeah, he'll get paid. He should get paid. Buzz, go ahead, jump in.
Is there anybody that? First of all, I don't understand the interstate system here in Kentucky, but that's another discussion for another day. Is there anybody that's going to be here more than 1 year unless they're getting paid big money like Ortega? I mean, I think we have arrived at the place and time where talking about people developing and being here is gone. Right. I mean, Mark talked about after they had filled out the roster last week that he was still looking for a couple of people. He was looking for people to help in practice or somebody that really wanted to be here. I don't know that he was sending a particular message to Potter, but you're looking for guys like that, and you have to have guys like that. And despite what people may want to think, there is not an unlimited amount of NIL money that's out there for Kentucky. And this thing gets more complicated by the day. And so they've got to do a good job of doing what they need to do, getting the people that they need to get, and going from there.
Well said. Yeah, guys, Davo, it's an audition year. I mean, you're playing it's free agency in a sense after your first year, and you're in a sense playing for potentially your next deal. I don't know. NIL, do they do multi-year NIL deals? I would think no. I don't know.
I think some of the bigger players, Buzz may be able to correct me on this one. I think with some of the bigger players, whenever the bigger schools try to keep the bigger fish, so to speak. It's funny because I just went to a fish place today. I didn't know where that came from, but
you had chicken tenders.
And I had chicken, yeah. But for the schools to keep the bigger players, I think they try to sign them to maybe like a guarantee, like 2-year NIL deal. But the rest of them are kind of.
But even if you signed a 2-year deal, and you played your ass off in year 1, and your worth is crazy more than what your current deal is, then you hold out like
that may be what Nico did. I don't know. So
what I would say to you is that if there's any of these agents out there that are worth anything, they're telling guys not to sign multi-year deals. Right. So what was the who was the guy? Oh wow, this is a guy that just backed out of traffic and is going the wrong way down the exit ramp. Welcome to Kentucky traffic, ladies and gentlemen. Who is the guy at Duke? Not Cooper Flagg, but the other kid, Van something. Come on, help me. The other big kid that was there. Big. What's that?
I can't remember the name. Yeah,
at Duke. Anyway, I was told that he got $2 million for this year, and was told that every year he came back, he would get another $1 million. Now that's not signed, but that gives you a range. And if I was anybody, whether it be a parent or an agent or an advisor, I wouldn't tell any kid to sign a multi-year deal.
Right. Why? Why would you? Yeah.
Right. I mean, you could, now the downside is you could get hurt or something, but that happens. But I mean, the other deal is, I mean, what if, and I would have liked it from a selfish standpoint, but what if Janai Broom had signed a multi-year deal with Morehead State?
Right. Well, here's the other thing too. We were kind of talking about how it favors the player. What about the school? I mean, why would the school, in a sense, keep sign you on a multi-year deal when you might not be everything that we had hoped for, and you're I don't know, expendable, without sounding cruel and
No. My guy at KYT, Brian Milam, has one of the greatest sayings I've ever heard, that in terms of making money in college athletics, all you have to do is sign and suck. I mean, sign that big contract and then just suck, and they buy you out and you get all your money. And I swear, I've looked at this every way but Sunday, but he's 1,000% right.
yeah. I mean, coaches, it's just everywhere. I mean, you see all the kind of money that's now available, Doc. The school. What's that scenario? If it doesn't play out for a kid who's on your roster, thing is, next year through the portal, as we know it now, there's going to be some better people to choose from. Doc.
I think the conversation that we're having right now shows that they have to develop some sort of system where you're legally signing a contract. You're held accountable to that contract. And therefore, if you violate it, then you have to end up paying the penalties, because other than that, on either side, it's just too easy to say, hey, well, it didn't work. Let me go on to greener pastures right now. So I do think the contract element is going to be coming into the equation pretty soon.
Well, it's not only just a contract element, but I mean, it's the whole element of, you're going to have taxes and stuff coming in too, is what you're going to have. I mean, it's not just contract, but you're going to have legal, financial ramifications is what you're going to have. And, it's going to get messy, real messy, before it gets better.
And keep in mind too, as these kids are signing their NIL deals, they've got what's their overhead with every deal? Their agent, whatever, handlers doing, their own marketing. I mean, it's a business. I mean, these kids are, in a sense, professionals right now. There's no amateur status. They are.
Oh yeah, if you take somebody who's making three.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you're taking somebody who's making $3.5 million, I know you take out taxes, take out agent fees, but there's still a pretty penny to be left over from that standpoint, especially when you compare it to 10 years ago when people are talking about having enough money to buy a hamburger here and there. Now you're talking about a pot of $3.5 million. It is just mind blowing, but it's a sign of the times. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, this money they're throwing around, Davo, you can supersize every meal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to spend off that dollar.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, like you guys said, now, I mean, we're officially a business in college athletics. And we're not there yet, but I don't think it's going to be too far down the road where we're going to end up having buyouts with players, right? Kind of like how coaches will negotiate a crazy buyout. Like Buzz said, when they sign their deal and they suck, then they get like Stoops, for instance. We'll talk about that later. But he has like a $33 million buyout. So if he has a 3 and whatever win season, it's over. They let him go, fire him, and he's getting $33 million a second. So yeah, we're right now.
Well, what's the latest with Oweh, Davo? I mean, he seems to be locked in right now with doing what he needs to do, has to do to get to the next level. I still do not see him as a first round pick.
No,
but
And yeah, and I'm sure you guys have been seeing me kind of being a little loud about that. Some of the higher media uppers, KSR, is trying to push the narrative that is this a sign that Oweh's not coming back? Yada yada yada. I mean, guys, he has an opportunity to show out in front of all the NBA scouts, all the NBA executives. He's going to do his best to say, "Hey, I'm gonna take Oweh. This is what I can bring to the table. Now tell me what I need to work on," right? And he's going to take full advantage of this, and he's going to take it seriously, because why would he be there if he's not going to take it seriously, right? There's no way in the world he's going to go in front of the media and just say, I'm only here to be told what I need to get better on, right? He's going to say, hell no, I'm here to prove a point. I'm here to prove that I'm good enough to play in the National Basketball Association. And that's what they want to hear from a player. And we all know, well, we all don't know because we don't know Tago Oweh personally, but we think we know that he knows what he needs to work on, and that's ultimately, a consistent jump shot, because that is exactly what the NBA is coming to now. Not only are they super freak athletes, but they can also shoot the hell out of the ball, and that's something he really needs to work on. So I'm personally still not worried about it. I still think that there is a really great chance he comes back. So
there's no question. There's no question he's coming back. I mean, they wouldn't have offered him the money that he did if he wasn't coming back. And he wouldn't be doing his due diligence. And I'm sure Mark Pope encouraged this for him to go ahead and to go through this process. I mean, there's no downside to it. I mean, you hear from those guys what they want you to do. Oh, my God, this is unbelievable. I mean, this is the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some bad traffic in this state. This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen.
Where are you at?
I am trying to get from Winchester to Frankfurt, and they're at the 75-64 split is something that can be described as nothing less than a cluster. And so the interstate, I mean, seriously, you could get through rush hour in Atlanta easier than you could this cluster that is here in Lexington right now.
But one thing I'll give you credit for, Buzz, is I've heard the turn signal in the background. So you're one of the good ones who does use that damn, thing.
Well, what I would say to you is I thought it was appropriate to use the turn signal since I turned around on the ramp and went the wrong way on the ramp to get off this road and to try to do something else. It reminds me of one of my great SEC stories where we were doing a game at Vanderbilt. It was Vanderbilt and something, and they were forecasting that huge snow, which actually came. And so I had rented a 4-wheel drive car, and we were doing the 9:00 game in Vanderbilt. And so we got done with the game, and I get on the interstate, and it's like it starts. And I'm like, oh, gosh. So I left Vandy at 11:00 Eastern on a Wednesday night and pulled into Lexington at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday. But the good thing about it was dark. And so on the interstate, if I had to take a pause for some personal business, I could do that without anybody seeing me. And that's a true story. But I mean, I had rented a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and I finally got off the interstate and went up the back roads and everything. And I mean, my vehicle was fine, but you were trying to get through 18 wheelers that were jackknifed, that all this stuff. It's like, Lord
Jeez.
help.
Buzz, you said if you could, if you had to do that, this is now where you can confess. Did you actually pull over and do that?
On the interstate on that night back from Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
No, I never pulled over. We were stopped right there in the interstate. I just got out the car. I didn't pull over.
Oh, you didn't book. You just got out the car.
No, I would say I probably took advantage of that opportunity from the left lane, the center lane, and the right lane on I-65.
I remember being on 65 sometime last year. Traffic is at a stop. There's construction, blah, 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 on a Saturday. And literally a car, two cars in front of me, the dude gets out and keeps his driver's door open and literally relieves himself right there. I mean, no one sees it, but you know what he's doing. And
was this daylight or nighttime?
It was daylight during the day. I don't know if that's I guess that is a crime or whatever. So, anyways.
Well, yeah. So meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right.
I think that's a cue for you, Kevin, to keep things going.
Don't you
remember that when they changed scenes on the Justice League?
Oh,
That big voice would always say, "Meantime, at the Hall of Justice."
All right, well, check this out. The non-conference schedule, they put this out. We got Purdue as an exhibition game in October. We'll talk about the Louisville game being bumped up. You got Michigan State, Gonzaga, Indiana, St. John's, which is going to be a huge game for just the college basketball scene. Bellarmine, North Carolina Central ACC Challenge. Davo, depending on who you talk to, you hear Kentucky fans like Louisville scheduled this game in November because they didn't want, they wanted a Kentucky team who hadn't, gelled by December. But in fairness, wasn't really the big deal with this Louisville game the fact that Indiana and St. John's became opponents in December, and it kind of altered the schedule too. So it wasn't just Louisville dictating that. I don't know. Was it? Is it?
No, I think it was just like you said, a scheduling thing. I mean, no way in hell they're gonna keep the Indiana game exactly where it is. I mean, obviously St. John's is due to a contractual agreement with that classic, right? So that kind of is what it is. I mean, it's gonna be kind of weird, right? But it's just gonna give us an opportunity to go ahead and kick their ass and get it out of the way, and just kind of watch the rest of the season. But I can tell you, well, what I think, obviously, my personal opinion. I think Mark Pope obviously knew that this was coming, right? So that's why he got that Purdue exhibition game scheduled to go ahead and test his team, and kind of see where they are. So I think that's just, once again, that's just Coach Pope, using his brains. So I think that's an excellent decision.
Real quick shout out, Matt Sack, Erupt to No Good podcast, guys. This is I'm borrowing their post. Doc, what's this non-conference schedule? What you think and feeling?
I don't have any problems against it at all. In fact, I like the fact that Louisville is in there early. How many times has we as fans complained about the early season schedule, especially when it's in Rupp Arena? You're playing all these directional schools. You go through 5 or 6 games in which you don't really learn a whole lot about the team. Here it's bam, and it's not like they haven't played big teams right out of the gate. The Champions Classic was always one of the first games on the schedule. I don't think it's a big deal. In fact, when you look at it, I think the whole reason it got pushed up so early is because you had that Gonzaga, you had that Indiana, you had that St. John's gauntlet right at the beginning through middle through late December. You have to put it someplace. So bring it on. I'm really excited about it. I like it.
Okay, we're getting fact checked here. Agenda push a fail. Thank you. So ESPN does control the ACC home game, so that's a good point too. And obviously,
They don't control them.
okay,
They've got a lot of yank over them. It's a Louisville home game.
that's fair.
So if it came down to a jump ball, Louisville would have the preference over Kentucky, the same way Kentucky would have the preference over the date if it was a UK home game.
Yep.
My understanding is they've been going back and forth for a long time. I mean, if you're Kentucky, where are you going to play this game in December? There's no place to play the game in December.
Right.
Okay. And so Louisville has obviously got some things. Now, I'm sure what they're going to do is they're going to make it part of Super Tuesday or whatever that is and try to showcase it that night.
November 11th. It is a Tuesday night. Well, yeah.
And that's okay with me.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, there are a lot of people that are running into this thing. Okay. So Texas and Texas A&M, I believe they decided to play their basketball game the night before the football game in November. And then Mississippi and Mississippi State agreed to do the same thing, where they've got a big basketball game. I don't know if it's a two of them, or Mississippi State's got a big non-conference game the night before the Egg Bowl. If I was a betting man, as my man Pete Rose would say, I would bet that Kentucky offered up a deal to try to play this basketball game the night before the football game. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And that's the direction a lot of schools are going in.
Buzz, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little bit hesitant to ask you because I don't want to tax you too much. I know you're multitasking, trying to drive and answer questions at the same time.
The reason that is, John, is because unlike you, I don't have a driver. I just have to drive myself.
All right. Do you think that not having a game on a Saturday kind of cheats the fan base out of that full day experience? How much of a difference is a Tuesday night where maybe all eyes are on ESPN game night versus a Saturday where fans get to kind of enjoy the whole day, go out beforehand, eat, come to the game, have the entire experience? Now you're trying to get the kids to bed after a late night game on Tuesday night.
John, I don't disagree with you, but sometimes, and here's the deal, it's kind of like you high-priced, high-profile domestic authors, people like you and Scott Jennings and James Mitchell and people like that. You do what you do. So here's the deal, they're going to play at the end of the day when the networks want them to play. It would be best under perfect circumstances if they played on a Saturday, but on a Saturday like that, unless it's the Saturday of the UK and U of L game, the chances of having neither one of those football teams play up against the basketball game, in my mind, is really kind of minute. And so I think you would be hard-pressed to have the two basketball teams play against each other in November on a Saturday and it not affect one of the basketball games. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Mark Story had an interesting column where he talked about the pie in the sky idea of maybe having a triple header of the UK women versus Louisville on a Friday night, then the Kentucky Louisville football game on Saturday, and then the Kentucky Louisville basketball game on a Sunday. I think that would be fantastic, but there's not a chance in France that the schedules are going to be able to pull that one off.
Well, the thing about it too is that's great from a Kentucky standpoint, but when Billy Reed was banging the drum at the Courier-Journal years ago to try to get Kentucky and Louisville playing in basketball, there were a lot of us who said once that happens, this is just going to be another game on the schedule. It's not going to be like, the dream game was, and it's an important game,
Right.
but in terms of national interest, probably Kentucky Gonzaga, probably Kentucky Michigan State are more interesting than Kentucky Louisville. And that's just because you've primarily just got one fan base in one state that's going to be watching. Now, it's obviously a huge game here for us, and it should be. But at the end of the day, that's what the reality is. And so I don't think that's ever going to happen. I mean, if you look at schedules, and I've got just a little more insight to this than the average bear because of all the stuff I've done. But I mean, ESPN on Friday nights from October through January, that they really push women's gymnastics. And virtually every Friday night they have a women's gymnastics doubleheader. And then now, especially since the SEC has gone to 16 teams, they push all those games on Saturday. And they don't have enough channels to air all those games on just cable TV. They have to push some of them to the stream. And then again on Sundays, they've typically got a Sunday full of women's SEC soccer and then women's basketball once it gets started up. And again, as fans of specific sports and everything, we don't like it. But at the end of the day, I think we've got to be aware of that because the athletics directors at all these SEC schools, especially now with the NIL, have made the decision to take the ESPN check, and they really don't make any moves to try and move those dates to other dates.
I trust in your words, Mr. Media, Mr. TV guy. Yeah, the SEC or the non-conference schedule is pretty much in place. So we'll talk more about that as the season gets near.
Sorry about that. That's a long-winded answer, but that's the bottom line.
Because Buzz said so. Stone Cold. That's a Stone Cold reference. Rajon Rondo, he got to be trending amongst BBN in the last few days because he received his diploma. And there's always been this talk that my understanding is that he has an interest in coaching. Now that he has his degree, he's able to get into the college coaching ranks. Rajon Rondo, one of my all-time favorite. It's a cat that's, no pun intended, I think I love Tubby. It's not a knock on Tubby. Rondo could have done more. His true abilities were not there in Tubby's system. My take. I'm not bashing Tubby, but is there, I don't know, what is there buzz or talking about Rondo possibly getting involved with Kentucky's basketball? Doc, Buzz, y'all know that?
I don't have any inside information, but I think it'd be a great addition. Unfortunately, nowadays in college basketball, I think you need a little bit more than a bachelor's degree. I think they're mainly looking for masters also if you want to become a coach of a big-time program. So, yeah, assistant coach, I'm sure it would be no problem. But if you're talking, and it seems like, if I'm gauging Kevin Hale correctly, each one of your questions has an ulterior motive behind it. Are you saying that maybe he's going to somehow ascend to the throne sometime in addition to Pope, after Pope? What?
No. I'm not looking that far down the road. But I'm looking at a guy who clearly a great point guard who had a great NBA career who could clearly be an asset to to the staff, this staff, whatever, and work with your guards. Buzz, Rondo, what's your take there?
Here's what I think, Kev. I think a lot of guys are interested in it. We had on the pregame show this year, Wayne Turner is like in his fourth,
One of my favorites too, Mr. Turner.
50 years. They had, and we were busting him on the show that we players in there and everything. A lot of guys want to do this, but just because you were a great point guard, in college or wherever, doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach. Now, I can go back to Rod Strickland, who was a great college player, a great NBA player, and by all accounts was a great guard whisperer. And so, with all that stuff right now, I just leave that all to Pope. I just, he knows what he needs in terms of fit for his players, for his coaches, for his support staff. And so, I know for a fact that there are some former Kentucky guys who are in coaching at the college level that reached out to him this year, and he didn't have a spot for him.
Right.
And, he would be, because of the relationships, he would be inclined to have a spot for him, but he did not. And so I think that's kind of the thing we're looking at now. And I would just, I would defer to him is what I would do.
Okay.
Kevin, I think there are two specific reasons why I think he would be a good fit. Number one, I think he has the mentality. I know when he played for Tubby, he wasn't what you would call the most compliant player on the team. Sometimes he thought outside the box. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. And I think if he kept that mentality, then Pope would be assured that he wouldn't have a yes man on the staff. And we all know what happens when you have too many yes men on the staff. And then, the other thing is that he's a guy who has a lot of roots with the city of Louisville. So from a pipeline and from a recruiting standpoint, I think with all the connections that he has, that would open up a whole nother avenue of recruiting for Pope. I mean, we haven't had that many Louisville superstars come play for the blue and white. And I think if you've got an assistant coach like Rondo on there who has the connections, then hopefully he'll be a little bit more effective than a Kenny Payne in terms of getting players to come to UK.
Nice segue, because with Rondo, something entered my head, and there's always shit noodling in my head, but this particular thing, guys. Or Dave, I'm sorry. Give us your take on Rondo. Do you see him as? Go ahead.
Well, fun fact: I actually went to school with Rondo's sister at Mazik Middle School, Diamond Rondo. Yep. I went to school with her, and then I actually played against, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back. And the last team to beat Rondo and the Eastern Eagles before he went on, to bigger and better things.
Oak Hill, didn't he go to
Oak Hill? Yeah, he went to Oak Hill the next year. And now I was a part of the team. Granted, I wasn't the most athletic player, so I did, keep the bench warm quite often. But I was a part of that team who beat the Eastern Eagles 88-83 in double overtime. So, nice. Yes. Anyway, that's just a fun fact. But I think whenever it comes to Rondo, as far as him getting on the bench as a coach, I think that'll be kind of a hard push. But we've been seeing all over the country, where alumni, for the most part, are joining in as like a GM type role. So maybe that could be something to kind of help put the team together and kind of manage some stuff, backstage and everything. So not sure.
What? Oh, all right, cool. staying with that Louisville angle, what came into my head, I don't know where Buzz is.
I'm here.
Okay. I went back to the Joe B. Hall days. Who were the best players on a Kentucky basketball team who came from the city of Louisville?
I gotta sit this one out.
Here's my take. I'm gonna rattle off names, but these are the ones that immediately came up as top guys for me. Rondo, Derek Anderson, Winston Bennett, Scott Padgett. Again, only really the 80s Joe B. Hall era. Bennett played for Joe B. Hall up until now. Who else is on that list, or from the city of Louisville? That the former player, Doc, Buzz.
Yeah, I can't think of any other significant players, but on the other hand, it's not surprising to me at all. The reputation of the University of Kentucky has always been a school that these athletes from Louisville just wouldn't even consider. They didn't want to go there. It wasn't on their radar. In fact, they wanted to go anyplace else but Kentucky.
Yeah.
And, you ask yourself, what are the reasons for that? And part of it has the age-old issue of racism always comes up, as Kentucky was considered, this white school, Adolph Rupp in his days. And I know there's still a lot of controversy about why he didn't recruit more African-American players. But I think on the surface, that's probably issue number one. They just didn't look at Kentucky as a school that would be welcoming for them.
Ironically,
at West Unseld, and it went on from there.
Ironically, correct me if I'm wrong, Rupp's first African American player was from the city of Louisville, right?
Yeah, it was Payne. Was Payne from Louisville? Or?
I thought he was Louisville Central, or Shawnee, whatever. But anyways, Buzz, going, your illustrious career, I rattled off Derek Anderson, Winston Bennett, Padgett, Rondo. Those are my top four. Any others from the city of Louisville you think of that really made an impact?
Well, let me say this. First of all, the Rupp racism thing is, again, it's garbage. It's complete garbage. And there is not a single kid that's being recruited now or their parents that were around when that was alleged. And the other thing we can take into consideration now is there is not a single kid, unless you look at a Jeff Shepard or a Travis Perry or a Trent Noah, that is going to come here anymore because it's their school, because of the allegiance. There are going to be kids that come here like Kirk Kriisa and whoever, this Jelovic or whoever you want to make. They're coming here for the cash. I mean, they come here for the cash, but it's also a program that has been proven that can get guys to the next level. So they're going to come here because of that. So this is a program that has gotten beyond recruiting the best player from Lexington, recruiting the best player from the city of Louisville. I go back to the time when, and I wasn't around, but my man Mike Pratt was telling me these stories, okay? So you've got Harry Lancaster, who was Rupp's top assistant, who was scouring the country going to sign guys. And for instance, Pratt and Dan Issel were both signed by Kentucky without Rupp ever seeing them play in high school. I mean, that's just the truth. And that's the day that we were in. So, I don't think any of that comes into play now. And I hate it. I think it comes into play with people like Reed Shepard. But other than that, that cow is out of the barn.
Well, in Doc's defense, I don't think Doc was trying or implying that.
No, and I'm not banging on Doc, just so you know. But no, that stuff has come up forever, and that's just,
but
that's just BS.
80s, during the players in the 80s, I looked as in the city of Louisville. There was a lot of freaking talent that came out of the city of Louisville in the 80s that were just, really great players. And it was like Winston Bennett was the one guy in that 80s run that got out of the city. Everyone else seemed like they landed it, played for Coach Crump, which, did to me, my understanding was that whole Rupp cloud was there back then still. Not now, because here's the truth. There is, other than Kentucky kids, I will willing to bet anything. If you put a picture of Adolph Rupp with 9 other white guys, not a single kid is going to know who Adolph Rupp is.
Since John got back from the West Coast, okay. I mean, do you think there's any kid that's being recruited? Are you
stalking me, Dave Baker? Are you stalking me? How did you even know I was gone?
Because you posted a picture of like some 5-course meal or something, for God's sakes.
The algorithm on your Facebook account must be specifically zeroed in on mine.
The rest of the time when
friends who don't even see any of my posts.
The rest of the time when the rest of us are working, we're eating in the damn media room, for crying out loud. We're not at some 5-star with chopsticks. I mean, come on.
Oh, man,
how many of those guys? It looked like it was great, but how many of those guys back during that era? Oh, there you go, Doc. That's it. That's it.
Where'd it go?
How many of those guys left Westwood when John Wooden was recruiting? And we know why they didn't leave Westwood, because John Wooden was a great coach and a great man, but that other dude was filling up their pockets.
Yeah, and I think back in the 80s, it didn't help that the Denny Crum was kind of eating Joe B's lunch sometimes, especially with players like Darrell Griffith and Bobby Turner, inner city players from Louisville who subsequently signed with Louisville and specifically avoided the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, but I don't know. Dave-O, I think you'd have to look at that.
When Bennett got on board, I remember when he signed, that was just a real eureka moment. I thought the floodgates would end up opening, but it didn't happen to be the case. And man, you talk about tough. He's probably one of the toughest players that ever wore the uniform. I got a neat little story when I had my office in Frankfurt and Winston had been appointed, I think it was the athletics director at Kentucky State. Yeah, he went around and he was visiting all the businesses and just introducing himself. And I was still a little bit starry-eyed at that time. Winston Bennett, somebody who I really admired, who played during the same time that I was in dental school. He comes in and shakes my hand. We start talking Kentucky basketball. Of course, I want to show him how much I know, so I'm telling him all his statistics. And then all of a sudden, I put my foot in my mouth. Maybe it was the future reporter in me trying to get a scoop. But I asked him about what happened up in Boston when he was the assistant coach.
You did not, did you?
I did. I did. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life.
And we all know what happened up there, right?
The temperature. Yeah, the temperature.
We're not going to talk about it here, but we all know what happened.
Yeah, we know what happened. And the temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees.
I bet it did.
Right like that. Wow. And I thought he was going to kick my ass right then and there. So that is my main memory. Winston Bennett, tough as nails. He'd kick your ass anytime.
Winston was a great guy, but if you go back, I believe it was to 83 or 84. Mm-hmm. It was the last time. And Dave-O, this is a great story. You were probably in elementary school then, but it was the last time. It was the last time when a school that was in the tournament could host a regional final. And Kentucky hosted the regional final, and they were playing Lou Henson and Illinois. And they had a really good team. And so I believe, if I'm right about this, it was a Thursday, Saturday regional. So at the Thursday news conference, Joe B was there, and I forget who the other player was there, but Winston was there. And they asked him about something, and Winston was very proud, and he was not hesitant to try to use the English language to its nth degree. And somebody asked him about Dickie Beal, and he said, "Oh, most definitely. He's an intrinsic limestone on this team." And everybody's like, "What? An intrinsic limestone?" And Sports Illustrated that weekend used the quote and referred to him as the limestone cowboy. And it was, I mean, he played great.
Limestone cowboy.
Right?
Sing that song. It was a rhinestone.
No, that's a rhinestone cowboy.
Cowboy. Okay. Davo, you know that song?
I do.
Well, you as a DJ, you would know that. That's right.
No, that was a great song. It would have been good in the movie Electric Horseman, which had a lot of great tunes in it with Willie Nelson et al.
We're all over the place, but that's okay. Dave, all right, Buzz,
Yes, we
you're
are.
still driving, right?
You damn straight. But I've broken out of the traffic now.
Okay.
I'm on Leestown Road and getting ready to get back on 64 where the traffic is cleared from the snarl in Lexington.
I could tell because through your background, your windows, I'm seeing shit move a little faster.
Yes. This is like somebody. Who was the guy that had the helicopter over at HAS? Captain Mark.
Shit. I know who you're saying.
Mark Travis.
Mark something. But anyway,
I can see him right in front of me. But I mean, you talk about traffic and weather together on the 10s, and that's what it feels like I'm giving on the way home.
All right, real quick, I'm gonna jump into a football take. We haven't been able to talk football much, but I don't know if you're seeing this. You seeing the screen? Where are we at? I'm still trying to figure this shit out.
It looks like the trophy, right?
The trophy, but it is the big report at 16-team college football playoff is gaining support in the Big Ten and SEC, which we all know, it begins and ends with those two conferences. A 16-team playoff that would give the SEC and Big Ten each 4 bids. So half the teams in this format would come from 2 conferences, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12.
That's a guarantee.
That would be, yes. The Big Ten could have play-in games as well. So, I mean, 16 teams from 12 to 16, I don't have a problem with it. What's say you, Davo? What are you thinking?
That don't mean shit to me when it comes to Kentucky football, because that means you still have to finish in the top 4 of a 16-team league. So, yeah. I mean, it'll be fun to watch other teams go at it.
The problem, Davo, is that's probably gonna nuke the UK U of L game if it happens. Because you have to play. They'd put a limit.
Yeah.
They would put a minimum on how many conference games you have to play.
Exactly. Right.
So it's equal.
So
for
it
everybody.
would likely, go maybe to 9. But yeah, that would potentially have an impact on some of your non-conference rivalries. Doc, seeing this, feeling it?
Yeah, I was
too soon to talk about it. Go ahead.
I don't think this is a cuss word, but I think Matt Jones was talking about just this very issue. And I listen to everybody, Kevin. I don't discriminate, just so that you'll know. But Matt was basically saying that the SEC will also have some sort of playoff system built in where the 4th through 6th teams or the 5th through 8th teams will have a chance to kind of play into that 4th spot. And so if that's the case, then Davo, I think Kentucky may have a realistic chance of somehow one of these years, every 3, 4, 5 years, maybe landing up in that top 6 spot. So from a Kentucky standpoint, I'm fine with that. From an overall puristic standpoint, I don't like it. I think it waters down the regular season too much. One of the things I enjoy about college football is the week-to-week rivalry of the games. If somebody loses, that's a big dent against their playoff chances. I think you'll end up losing that. It's not basketball. It's not March Madness. They're trying to make it like that, and it's apples to oranges. I think they need to leave it at, if it were up to me, I'd leave it at 8.
Doc, seriously, I'm not picking on you or anything.
Take it
Sure you
down
are.
game.
Come on, you always pick on me.
No, I'm really not picking on you. But when you look at the preseason predictions for this year, who do you think will be president the next time Kentucky gets a sniff of the top 6, the top 8, maybe the top 10?
Well, if Trump has his way, it'll be his 3rd term. So, I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking.
Well, if you
no,
look,
so you think it can happen in 5 years? I mean, I'm asking a serious question. I mean, I've been floored by these preseason predictions.
Well, if you look back 3 or 4 years ago, I think if you looked at the schedule, I think Kentucky would have finished in the top half of the conference. So you can never say never, but no, in answer to your question, maybe never in our lifetimes, but maybe in our kids' lifetimes it could happen. So I'm looking that far ahead.
Well, somebody put out on Twitter, and this is a funny, I guess, question to ask. What is most likely going to happen first? Kentucky makes a college football playoff appearance, or does Tennessee make a Final Four first?
Nah.
Wow. It's a great question.
Buzz, are you witness protection? I think there's no light with you.
No, hold on. Let me turn on it. It's just
No,
getting dark here in the car.
I know. Oh, I'm kidding. Safety first. Be safe.
No, it's all right. I know you're kidding, but let me see. Maybe I can turn on another light. That's about all I can do right now. But it is an amazing sunset on the way to Frankfurt.
I'm sure. So will it be Kentucky in the playoffs, college football playoffs, or Tennessee in the Final Four?
I mean, Kevin, I think they've got a huge hill to climb this year. I'd be really interested.
You're saying Kentucky football does?
Yes, I'd be really interested to see what the season ticket renewals are.
I mean, preseason
it's
ranking has us at the bottom.
I dropped my tickets for the first time in 8 years.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I have somebody that I know that you would know told me the other day that they dropped their tickets for the first time in 25 years. I mean, and nobody wants to see him do better than I do, but it's, if it was a stock, if Jim Cramer was on here, he would not be talking about it as a buy. And this all comes at a time when this financial thing is more uncertain and more critical than ever. I don't seriously, I don't like the name drop, but I will say this. I'll sound like a CNN guy or a Fox guy. I was talking to a member of the Kentucky congressional delegation earlier today. And Congress is supposed to be coming up and doing this settlement, right, with this NIL stuff. And Congress doesn't really know what everybody wants because, a lot of the Ivies and people like that up east, they don't want to be a part of it at all. There are people like the Kentuckys and Indianas and people like that want to get it fixed. And yet I was told today that there are people at the schools in Florida and Texas primarily who are flush with cash, who say, boys, let's get it going. We've got enough money where we can do whatever you want. And so the short answer to that is there's really no consensus right now. And that's the scary thing.
I'm curious, Buzz, are you home or did you have to nature calling and you're pulling over the side of the road?
Hold on a second. What was that again, Kev?
I said, are you home or is nature calling and you've pulled over to the side of the road?
No, it was a brief pit stop to get something out of the vehicle. Yes.
Okay. All
Well, now that he stopped,
I'm glad my travels can provide you all with such entertainment.
It's part of the show.
let me hit you with a real hard-hitting question then, Dave, while you're stopped. I know it's not all about wins and losses and numbers, but how many wins do you think it's going to take for Stoops to keep his job next year?
Oh.
John, I could not begin to tell you. I mean, and I'm not. What was that number you flashed up, Davo? You think 7?
Well, consider what do you have this year? 4?
Where do you think 7 comes from in this schedule?
Oh hell, I don't have any idea. I mean, me personally, I don't think they get any more than 4. But I'm thinking that 7 is gonna save his job, and that's pathetic, right? If 7 wins is saving your job, but I think it's gonna at least take 7, honestly.
Well, let me just say this: depending on what happens, okay, and I'm just spitballing here, right? Okay, so I don't know what the number is, but if you're in a situation where you're looking at this congressional NIL deal and you're looking at perhaps having to make some big time adjustments because of a big financial hit you're going to have to take. And again, as I've talked to you guys before, you're looking at possibly cutting sports. Does your calculation about what will save a person's job or not, whether it's Stoops or whatever coach, does that change because of the financial situation? I mean, are you in a situation where you might keep Coach A because their buyout is so big, when in another year, you know, it would have taken, you know, they could have won more games and Coach A would still be out of a job? Does that make any sense?
It does.
So
I don't know that number.
But here's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If the fans are not happy with Stoops, they're not going to show up. They're not going to put money into tickets. I mean, someone's hand's going to be forced to make that call.
Kevin, can they afford to make that call? $33 million is a lot of effing money to fire a coach. Can they make that call? Will they make that call?
And here's the other thing, Davo, and I think you make a great point. The money that these universities have taken from these conference network deals is much more than it is from home revenue. And the home revenue is still significant. But I will tell you, I guess it's been, golly, I can't believe how damn old I'm getting. It may have been 15 years ago or so that Larry Conley and I were doing an SEC game down in Mississippi State, and we couldn't get out that night, so we went to have dinner somewhere, and we're just talking about a lot of stuff. And I treasure those conversations with Larry and Hammond and people like that.
Oh, awesome.
But he said, you know, I think in the next 10 years, you're not going to see very many big arenas or stadiums or anything like that, because every venue is going to be like a TV stage, and it's going to be made for TV, and the only people that are going to be in there are the big donors.
True.
And so, you know, I can tell you that from a basketball standpoint, that Kentucky makes approximately 1.2, 1.3 million per home basketball game. And so that revenue went down when Cal wanted to play all these neutral site games. But that revenue is important now. And I don't know what the number is, but I think last year, and John or Davo, you could help me with this. I want to say that last year that the number for SEC money was 29, 30 million per school.
Per school. Yep.
So Yeah. So for every school, except for an LSU or an Alabama or an Auburn or an LSU, maybe a Texas A&M and a Texas, that money from the television revenue is going to be much more significant than home attendance and ticket sales, which is what you were talking about, Kev.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, that's a good point. Um, yeah, the one
And
thing,
I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
I just, how did we get in this kind of a shitty situation with Stoops and his contract? If memory serves me, every time he won 6 games, he got like a bonus and another year added and all this, and an increase for winning 6 games. Now, I know you could say, well, it's Kentucky football. We don't, that's not the norm. But geez, 6 games in a 12-game season is average.
But once
you're rewarding a guy for average.
Yeah, but once he won those 2 seasons with Penn State and Iowa, right? That's whenever they started renegotiating his buyout. That's where we got in trouble.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he became a hot name back then, and Barnhart was like, "Well, hey, if you want my coach, just how much you got to pay us to get him." And now it's come to the point now where he's really been shit in the bed, and so now they're like, "Oh God, well, what are we gonna do?" If he only wins 3 or 4 games next year, and then they got to honor that buyout. And Stoops ain't going to resign. He won't resign.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, so, the smart guy, he doesn't have to. But it doesn't help us, Kentucky football, now that you've added Oklahoma and Texas. No. You've added elite programs.
But the interesting thing though, Dave, is that Mitch's position across the board has been that he doesn't hold coaches to buyouts, and he has felt like if somebody feels like they can get something better, then go. Right. And so Calipari did not have a buyout, which is the reason he was able to walk and go to Arkansas. And so I can't remember where the rumbling started with Stoops, but I believe it was, like you said, after those 2 games. And, I think one thing about college football coaches more than college basketball coaches is that those guys, on the whole, have a sense about when to get out and when to stay put, right? So Howard Schnellenberger, as great as he was, I'm sure people that were around him that are still here would tell you that he felt like he stayed at Louisville 1 more year than he should have. And all he had to do at that point in time, the only option he had was to take that bad job at Oklahoma at the time, which didn't work out for him. And so, Stoops had not been looking, but then this whole Texas A&M thing happened, and things were still kind of a little dicey, before that Louisville win in Louisville. And then all this stuff started popping out, and this thing started growing legs before he ever got back to Lexington. The team was coming back in the bus, and he and Vince Marrow came back in a car. And by all accounts, it looked like
I didn't know that story.
Oh yeah, that A&M made the offer, and the guy who was the athletics director at the time was Ross Bjork, who had been at Western and who had been at Ole Miss, and the president, unbeknownst to most people, was a gal named Kathy Banks, who was from Whitesburg, Kentucky. And Kathy's brother and I went to school together over at Georgetown. And so there was a lot of familiarity there. And so they had put this big deal together, and by all accounts, Mark had accepted it. And then the trustees and the big money people. And have any of you guys ever been to College Station?
No.
Yeah, I have. It's a palace.
John, see,
every
oh,
one of those stadiums and facilities looks like the Taj Mahal.
see if you agree with this. I never understood why the people at Texas hated the people at A&M so much until I went to A&M. It's got like the fourth or fifth largest endowment in the country. They are flush with oil money, and they don't have to take a backseat to anybody in terms of facilities or anything like that. And so they feel like they can compete with anybody. And so all those big boosters came in and looked like they put the kibosh on that. And there was damage control here, and that didn't happen. And so since then, I think it's been an interesting situation for Mark. I think that's probably been used against him on the recruiting trail. But again, the whole thing, let's go back to Kentucky basketball. Kenny Payne was identified as the guy who could relate to the players and who was the super recruiter. And that position on the staff right now is basically null and void, because now
Buzz hit a spot. All right, I don't know where he's at, but let's we'll wind this down. Final shots. Let's go with it, Davo. What you got for me?
Yeah, obviously today was Mother's Day. Got a chance to celebrate my mama, and I'm sure a lot of us, hopefully had the chance to celebrate with their mom one way or another. I know my mom on Saturday went out to visit. She just lost my grandma, her mom, about 7 months ago. So she went out there and spent some time with her mama and talked to her and everything. So, yeah, definitely celebrate mama, celebrate all the strong moms out there. I know that's where I got all my strength from, is my mama. So, love you, mamas. Keep doing all the fantastic mama stuff out there. Keep being you. Keep holding down the families.
There you go. Doc, give me a final shot.
I second that motion. It also happened to be graduation weekend for the University of Kentucky. And my understanding is that 160 former student athletes came back, took advantage of this K. Wood Ledford scholarship, which allows them to complete their studies at UK even after their careers. And that just shows me that a college education, a diploma, even a scholarship is still worth something in this day and age. So hats off to them. I'm sure it will serve them very, very well in the future.
As someone who's up there in age, anytime that we can sneak in a K. Wood Ledford take, I'm all for it. That's legend. Buzz, final shot, sir.
Kev, you don't know age, for crying out loud. I have no idea what your age is, but I can promise you don't know what age is.
58, brother. 58. I got it.
Well, I can promise you then that you're not the oldest one on this one.
Okay, but I'm go ahead.
Okay, but Merle Haggard, Mama tried. Mama tried to make me better, but in fear I denied. No one's to blame, but Mama tried. And so I miss my mama every day. They were great UK fans. They never asked me for a ticket for themselves.
Oh.
They asked for tickets and they asked for calendars for friends of theirs. And they weren't like people that could do anything from them. They'd call up and say, hey, this guy that works down at the Hardee's where we go every day, he'd love to come to a game if you got some tickets. And
That's
so
cool.
that's what I remember. And so
I like them already.
Yep, there are kids out there that have done so much. And when I think of moms, there are so many single moms and grandmothers that have taken care of kids and raised them. John talked about those graduates. One of those graduates was the aforementioned Rajon Rondo, who got his degree this weekend. And so it's great weekend. And I just hope that in the busyness of life, we take advantage and make sure every day that we thank those who have done the most for us.
All for it. I did get to spend the day with my mother. She is still here with me. Always a good thing. And even my little shout out, and I know Doc, you probably maybe you're in the same situation. I've got I'm again, I'm 58, 3 grandkids. The mothers of my daughters are the mothers of my grandkids, and so a shout out to my girls who are just if there's I will say top 10, top 5 thing in my life that I'm most proud of is my kids being just amazing parents, and my 2 daughters. Shout out to them on Mother's Day. That make me very, very proud. So
there you
Shout
go.
out to dog moms too. Dog moms.
Yes.
I am married to a beautiful woman who is a dog mom to our 2 brats that you met a couple weeks ago.
They're not brats. They were actually. Where are they?
Oh, they're in there snuggling up with mom for Mother's Day.
Okay. All right. Okay. Round of shots here on this Mother's Day edition. I don't know, Dave. We're going to take a break from spaces for.
Yes.
Oh God! What is this? You guys have been trying to pull me into this cesspool, and now you're taking a break.
Only because it's just slow. The news is slow right now, so we'll spend our time together on a Sunday night. And I don't know right now if we'll do every Sunday night, but as news comes up, we'll figure it out together if we're going to do a show. But I'll love still. It's very cool that I get to hang out with some cool dudes, winding down the weekend and talking Kentucky sports. So,
yeah,
Kev,
and
you
thanks
are
to
the
everybody
you
who
are the
tuned
news
in here. Also,
what's that, Doc? I'm sorry.
yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in. I'm looking at all the comments down here. I'm reading every single one of them. So thank you. It's
fun.
This is therapeutic for everybody involved. I enjoy hanging out and talking to everybody.
And it's just really great company. I like doing this on a Sunday night with present company, and we're going to keep doing it until further notice. All right, guys. For Davo, Doc, and Buzz, wishing everyone a good night, good rest of your weekend, good week. We will be back maybe next Sunday or not. So, everyone, take care, be safe, and